Hey everyone, welcome to Sonido Cumbiaton, a podcast where we talk arts, culture, politics, and all that mess, but with
and undocumented and queer perspective.
My name is DJ Sizzle, and I am joined by my lovely co-host
Julio Salgado. Hello, people. How y'all doing?
Hi everyone, how you doing?
Hi. Do you like my look today?
It's so beautiful. I love me an alternative baddie.
I look like that art teacher who is like a veterano, but he's kind of gay and artsy.
And you know what? I would never ditch your class. I would just show up to go to your class.
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you so much. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this with a friend, a comadre, your tia, and follow us on social media at Cumbiaton_LA. And also, we just opened a Sonido Cumbiaton Instagram at Sonido Cumbiaton. So follow us. And thank you so much for sharing our reels. Amiga, ¿cómo estás?
Girl, I'm doing well. How are you?
Girl, I'm good. This past couple of weeks have been active. In the last episode, we mentioned how like we've been doing a lot of stuff.
Right.
And I think that's good for my mental health to be out and about. Last week in the last episode we had our first guest, Gaby Hernandez from Orale Long Beach, and they came and promoted their show. And I actually went to the show, and let me tell you, girl, it was nice to have a night out with the hubby and laugh at the reality that is our lives.
Girl.
With comedians that know how to make fun of it it's just the perfect amount of comedy. So shout out to the comedians that were featured: Melissa Villaseñor, Silvia de Anda, Gigi Garcia, Ángel Hernández, Saúl Trujillo, and Vince Caldera. And the band that was featured, Los Alamos Band. Again, that was a fundraiser event, and all proceedings are supporting Orale Long Beach Community Defense Network. They actually, train folks to, be out there in the call in case, they have an ICE, sighting. So that was pretty amazing. If you want to donate to that fund, you can go to orale.com to make any donations. But yeah, it was beautiful to be. It was at the Art Theater in Long Beach. So many memories. The Art Theater is right next to the Long Beach LGBT Center, and I had some memories of going and getting STI checks and there. So good time.
Younger Julio moment. You had a younger Julio moment.
Girl, I wasn't that young, but yeah.
Girl, yo también aquí tratando de decir, no, pues mi amiga era una persona diferente when she was young, and she's like, no, bitch, this was last year.
Listen, STIs, any age, you always have to, stay put and make sure that you always get your cooties checked out. So this is a promo for STI health. So, but yeah, it was beautiful.
Take your prep.
Yeah, take your prep. And it was really cool that aside from doing that with Orale Long Beach, I also work with them to do some banners and some artwork that they took to an event in Sacramento, which you were part of in Sacramento. Tell us about that.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for that, and thank you also for sharing what your weekend looks like. Who was your favorite comedy at Orale Long Beach event?
Oh my God, this comedian, Saúl Trujillo, he was just, he was like this short guy, and he kept making jokes about being short and dating a white woman, dating specific hot topic white women.
Rockeras,
las raritas, which we love. We love the rarita white women, alternativas. But yeah, he was really funny. And of course, Melissa Villaseñor. I love Melissa Villaseñor is that awkward friend that you had in high school that would like throw it down with the jokes, and you would just like, laugh. Basically me.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have to check them out because I love me a good comedy show, and I love that Orale Long Beach did this as a way to also lift the spirits. You were sharing earlier, Julio, and we're gonna get a little bit more into that in our following segment. But laughter is the best medicine, and being in community and actually doing it for folks that, are throwing down and also trying to, do right by our community is
Yeah.
amazing. So shout out to Orale Long Beach, shout out to Gabi, shout out to y'all's membership, who, as Julio said, I was lucky enough to see at Immigrant Day of Action in Sacramento last Wednesday. And it's so funny because I saw something that looked like your art there, but I was like, no, this can't be Julio, right? Because I usually see Julio's prints and they have the signature or they're in posters, right? But it was really beautiful to see also like the DIY community prints that they had of you, and it was so just nostalgic to me coming from movement work, right? So I was invited by the CIPC and Immigrants Rising, which are two amazing organizations here in California that do work for and with immigrant communities. And they do this Immigrant Day of Action every year. And this year it was a record-breaking, it was a record-breaking gathering where over 1,300 people showed up from all over California. And once again, that's the California Immigrant Policy Center and Immigrants Rising who co-sponsored this event. And we had people from the immigrant rights movement, from the labor movement. We had unions. I believe SCIU was there. Chirla was also there, and Orale Long Beach, right? So there was a bunch of people from all over who came to advocate and lobby, right? Talk to the representatives, which is, something that I cannot stress enough as, someone who has been in movement work for, who did it for quite some time, right? When there's different political fights, right? And like at this point, everything is political. We really have to also show up and really kind of like play this game, right? And we're playing a game of strategy of chess, right? So we need to go in there and use everything that we can to elevate and amplify the voices of marginalized people. And I am so grateful for CIPC and Immigrants Rising for really taking the lead on doing this with community folks and activists. It was really awesome. I got to see a lot of our old movement friends,
Yeah.
Julio. Shout out to Danae and Ileana of Immigrants Rising, Edgar of CIPC. I actually also saw Anthony and Javier. We were just talking about them the other day, right?
Yeah.
Jose as well. So shout out to all the people that I saw there. It was just really beautiful to see, like, how a lot of us are still connected to this work, different capacities, different positions, but we're still there, right? I went on behalf of Cumbiaton to just kind of speak, right, on like the importance of like highlighting immigrant run businesses, right? And also as a former restaurateur as well, right? With Sazon and the importance of us, being this force in the labor movement, right? Immigrant folks that end up becoming business owners that can pull up different people and create jobs and opportunities for others, which is something that doesn't necessarily get talked about enough. So it was really cool to be able to be there and share a little bit more of that. Um, you
That's
know, yeah.
Now I was gonna say, I'm like, you went back to your roots of, going, being in community. How did it feel, given the, what's happening right now, how did it feel to be out there and, it's just speaking out on our behalf, really? Like, because I saw a lot of joy, which was great, and so, but like you personally, how did it feel to be out there so publicly?
Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I said that, it was all fine and it was, as it used to be because you could feel it. Like
Mm,
it's very tense. You're kind of your head is in a swivel, just kind of
yeah.
looking over your shoulder, looking at everybody because you never know, right? Like it's unfortunate that we have to live under these circumstances, but I think it's also important to speak on them, right? Because a lot of the times people don't necessarily know what each of us carries in our brain and in our heart. And it's a lot of like trauma and it's a lot of panic, right? Just to be outside, let alone be speaking to a group of like, amazing people that are coming into the state capital here in California, right? Sacramento. to really advocate for one another, right? Like that's scary. And I think, that's not often talked about,
Yep.
right? But I know, Julio, you also go to different events and different gatherings. I know you went to the Climate Power in Acción this past weekend as well. How did you feel about that? And can you tell us a little bit more about, what that event was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, even just the comedy show, right? Like I was there, and because a lot of these events are so public and anybody can attend, right? Like part of you is like, who's here? Like kind of watching your back. I don't want to live like that, and so I lean and I like coming with my friends and just like try to forget that there's a world outside that is trying to come for us. And yeah, I went to the climate power event. They were celebrating Latinos who are doing work, in for climate justice. But when I was there, I saw one of my favorite drag queens, Valentina from RuPaul's Drag Race. And I don't know if this happens to you, girl, but like whenever I see somebody that I admire or I fangirl, I get shy and I'm like I don't wanna come go up to them. My friend Moy was there. Shout out Moy Santos. And I was like, girl, Valentina's there, and she was like, go up to her and say hi. And I was like, no, me da vergüenza que lo voy a decir.
¿A ti te da vergüenza, amiga?
Girl, yes, when it comes to things like that, like, because I just like what I don't know, I get stuck in my head. And then and not to toot my own horn, but then another girl came in and she told me, she was like, Julio, I'm a fan of yours. And like Moy turns to me and she's like, see, she can come out to you. Why don't you come out to Valentina? Me and Valentina are definitely not on the same level, but it's like I don't know, I get in my head and I was like, no. And then we were leaving the event and I was like, Valentina, I'm a big fan. And then I ran away. Like, ¿por qué soy así? Does-
Girl, honestly, yo ni sabía que tú conocías a la pena, girl, you know? I
A
did
veces
not
sí,
know. I
a
am
veces sí.
shocked. I am shooketh. But no, no, no. I totally get it. And maybe it's one of those things that you maybe felt like you didn't want to bother them or you wanted to let them be in their own element. And maybe this is just me projecting because that's the way I feel anytime I come across a celebrity. I mean, we're in California and Los Angeles,
Yeah.
te ves con a million of people, right? And for me, it's very much that. Like, I don't like to be that person that's like, oh my God, let's take pictures, or hey, I just want to. But from time to time, I know, Bad Bunny reminded me of that, the debí tirar más fotos, right? Because, I mean, when are you going to also get to meet, your faves like that,
Claro.
right? And it's important, las fotitos, the memories. Girl, a ratito nos echan y que vamos a tener, nada más las memorias y las fotos. So,
I
girl,
mean, fotos
just
y recuerdos, fotos y
fotos.
recuerdos.
Very
What
that.
what else did you do this weekend?
So, I mean, speaking of cultural spaces, right?
Yeah.
I was able to luckily be invited into La Peña Cultural Center in Berkeley, California. They have this event called La Cumbia, and it was really beautiful. It's a community space, and it was community folks there dancing and vibing, having a great time. Shout out to DJ Robbie's for putting me on. And this was my first time playing there, but apparently this is a really historical hub here in Berkeley, right? So it was really beautiful to kind of get that like background of La Peña, right? And if you ever get a chance to go there, it's really gorgeous. They have murals, right? Different artists, both big and up and coming, have graced the stage. Artists like Julio Salgado as well.
Yeah, we had an event back in 2012, I want to say. Yeah, it was 2012 because we were celebrating, your girl was on the cover of Time magazine in 2012, back when, you know, if you know,
Back when they liked us.
back when they liked us, or they never liked us, but shout out to Jose Antonio Vargas. He wrote this cover story for Time magazine, and he asked a bunch of undocus to be on the cover. And we did an event. This is when I first started working with Fabiana Rodriguez. I moved to the Bay, and I had like, it was like very DIY. We put a bunch of posters on the wall, and then we had a conversation, and it was beautiful. But when I heard that you were like, I'm gonna be at La Peña, and I was like, oh my God, girl, it's like iconic spot. Even our producer Jesus, shout out, he's been, or he had a connection with the La Peña. You wanna tell us, Jesus, or not?
Oh yeah, I did my community service there a long
Oh,
time ago. But we're not going to talk about the details of all that. But
But
it's a
La
great
suffice to
Peña is
space.
there
say,
for
suffice to say,
community.
yeah, suffice to say, it's a beautiful, beautiful space. So yeah, if you're in Berkeley, go check it out. And it's just one of those iconic places in Berkeley that just means so much to the community. I'm so happy that they've been there since 1975, girl. So
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
girls
yeah,
have
yeah.
gone through there. Yeah, love it,
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
such a beautiful space, and I'm just happy to have been able to play there with them. So shout out again to La Peña. If you're in town, you should definitely go check it out. They have different shows. This one was cumbia. I think they have a salsa one, and they have just like a socializing one. It's a great space for artists to come and support. And as we continue to just kind of dive into these next 4 years and the foreseeable future, right? It's important for us to also continue to look for these spaces where community is cultivated, right? As you mentioned, Julio, La Peña has been a part of the community since 1975 and has been a central site for Latinx, Caribbean, Indigenous, diasporatic communities in the Bay Area to preserve and celebrate cultural traditions, present new interdisciplinary creative works, and to nurture grassroots social justice movement with artists, activists, and allies. So make sure that you are also supporting spaces like La Peña because they are important to our collective well-being. But Julio, we're going to start wrapping up this segment, and not without also kind of teasing something that's going to be coming up for Cumbiaton, right? Which is this past Friday. I was lucky enough to do an interview over at our home away from home, Espacio 1839, which is where I got this cute, cute shirt. You're not going to be able to see it here because of my background like that. But make sure you're tuning into our IGs, right? Whether it's Cumbiatons or myself to check it out because I always get my cutest fits from Espacio. I'm telling you, this is a one-stop shop in which I can go and get a t-shirt, get a birthday card, get, some cute earrings and stuff. But anyway, this fly shirt is bomb.com. And we did an interview with Univision. So please, you all check it out. It's supposed to be airing in May. We'll be sure to share it again on our socials and our YouTube también because it's important, girl. The girls are out here doing
Yeah.
amazing cultural work. And, with this work also comes, a lot of like mixed feelings, right? Because it's a lot, right? We both had jam-packed weeks.
Yeah.
And, although it's great and, it's very beautiful to be out and about in community, right? Sometimes these feelings, as we mentioned earlier, kind of start creeping in, right? Anxiety is
Dun, dun,
after
dun,
me,
dun, dun,
right?
dun,
I
dun.
wish we could use Dochi's like song here,
Nos
which
cobran.
nos van a cobrar. We don't have the budget for that,
One day we
girl.
will. One day we will.
But Julio, if you want to transition us into our next hot tropics.
Yeah, our for today's hot topic. I mean, we could talk about the tariffs. We could talk about all the things that are happening, but everybody's talking about the tariffs, but nobody's talking about the immigrant feelings. And so with that, we're like, Sizzle and I have been friends for a long time, and same with Pablo and Jesus. We go way back. And lately, Sissel and I had a conversation this weekend, and I was just feeling very anxious, right? And a lot of the times when you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, whether it's work, whether it's what's happening politically, sometimes you know it's the closest people to you that you love that can trigger anxieties, and it's not even their fault. It's like internal shit, right? And so today we want to talk about, this is fine. We got to deal with our feelings. And, you know, whether it's friends, lovers, family, dealing with that, it could be very, very, very heavy. In that conversation that Sister and I had, we were like, we are realizing how it took us a long time to get to a place where like, oh, your approach to your work, for example, it's you're like on it, how would you say that's what you were saying, morning productivity versus night owl realness.
Yeah.
I am in this stage of my life
Mhm.
in the morning, like 8 to 10 a.m. is when I get to my writing, when I get to, work on the creative time, because now I'm that person. And that necessarily doesn't mean that everybody's on that same schedule. And so we actually, as we produce, this podcast, we were like, oh, we need to come up with a, with times that kind of work for us, because last week we had like a little, misunderstanding, and I got in my head and I was like, like, oh, what's, is this so mad at me? What's happening? And then we had to have a conversation. It's like, girl, it's not even about that. But then I realized, I'm like, wait, there's something else going on within myself. That why did I go from like, we're working on something creative, to like, they don't like me and they're mad at me, right? And so it is not just happening, with my friends. It's happening with, my family members, and that is just like ¿cómo se dice? Like it's a
Trauma response.
it's a trauma response, because there's so many things happening, and if we don't talk about it and we're not direct, we start fostering this sort of like, I don't know. Even if I'm talking, I'm like kind of getting choked up, because it's happening a lot, right? Like a lot of the times I don't have the words, which is funny because we're doing a whole ass podcast where we use our words, to talk about things. But I'm like, I can't be the only one dealing with this. So how is trauma showing up for you, Sissel? I kind of gave an example of like you and I kind of having that similar situation, but you also have a lot of responsibility with your family, with friends, right? Like, how are you balancing that trauma response with what's happening with the world, and also keeping it chill? Because you and I have very different ways of dealing with things.
Pues mira, todo el mundo me dice, estás bien, pendeja, pero nadie me pregunta, pendeja, ¿estás
¿Estás
bien?
bien? True.
Girl,
Very
very that
that.
right now, because I feel like, you know, tanto you like myself and many other people were kind of like the happy-go-lucky, we're the
Mhm.
funny, we're the it's not that big of a deal, like like it'll be fine. We use humor to cope, right? We
Yeah.
use kind of just being like, this is fine, it'll be fine. Meanwhile, the no pasa nada, right? This is fine is the equivalent to no pasa nada cuando todo está pasando, and you're just trying, your best to keep it cool, calm, and collected. And lately, it's been really difficult, right, to be, this calm, cool, and collected person. And as you're mentioning, right, the people closest to us, unfortunately, get to see the worst, but they also get to see the best of us,
Hmm.
right? But I think, given the current political landscape and just everything that's happening, right, it's really hard to continue to be balanced. I don't know how you do it, Julio. I honestly don't even know how I do it, right? I don't know how any of us do it, right? But I think it's really important to talk about these things because, you never know what each person is carrying
Yeah.
emotionally, mentally, right? Like a lot of us are really just walking on this thin rope, right? Trying not to fall off, trying to balance work, life, relationships, right? Family things, political stuff. It's a lot, right? So I try my best to offer grace, right? And I'm trying my hardest to also communicate in healthy ways that can take accountability, hear it, right? Because I think a lot of the times when we are asked to be accountable, we get defensive
Yeah.
because I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, whoa, wait a minute, right? But I think it's really important to hear each other out, right? And that obviously comes with a lot of work. It obviously comes with a lot of intention. And I feel like Julio and I have been friends long enough to also have that confianza, right? To be like, hey, girl, I'm gonna call you in right now porque lo que está pasando, I don't want to carry it, right? And that is so important, and it is so brave to do with your friendships and your relationships, right? in a lot of communities, we are not taught to have healthy communication styles,
Mm.
just kind of sweep it under the rug and pretend that, things are going to be okay. But I wonder, Julio, what has been something within, your family relationships and like your actual relationship with your husband, right? That you are trying now with your friends too, because I feel like our family and like, our significant others get the initial, just kind of like they are kind of like our guinea pigs, right?
Yeah.
That's where our like communication and everything forms. It forms at home and then it kind of trickles on out. So I'm wondering how you deal with that at home.
Yeah, there are test runs of how to deal with these feelings. I think I always bring it back to my sobriety, right? Julio before sobriety was like, it'll be fine. I'll go out tonight and this will allow me to forget about any work anxiety, family anxiety, right? But now that I don't have that, I don't really have that outlet. When I first started my sobriety, I couldn't do it alone. So I'm very privileged to have access to insurance that allow me to get therapy. And it was to have a therapist. And I know this is very, again, accessibility to therapy it's very hard to come by, but there are programs out there, right? And so perhaps we can link some programs in today's episode. But to meet a therapist that was also a gay Latino man who call me out on my BS, right? And like, why are you thinking this way? This idea that as the oldest one, taking responsibilities and making, because when you take responsibilities as a family, member, you can also tend to do what your parents did, which was infantilize you, right? And so I had to learn that my parents, my sisters, they all have their autonomy and I'm only here to support and I'm doing it because I want to, right? And so that's the approach that I've been taking nowadays with my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my family. I'm here because we want to. This is a choice, right? A lot of the times with our blood family, it is not a choice. We're kind of put in this situation, but our friendship, Cecil, this project that we're doing, my friendship with Jesus and Pablo, those are friendships, and those are friendships that I take care so much, but also I'm like, there's things that I do that are annoying, right? And that I also have to ask and check in with you all and with my husband and with my family. I'm like, as much as I call it out and say like this is bothering me, what are the things that I'm doing that is bothering you, right? Like one of the things is so that you mentioned is it's the I don't know if you should said it right now or during our conversation, but this sort of mutual accepting of what is it that we can do better, right? And so the doing better, and that's just an overall community, right? Like this idea that people can just be thrown away because there's a disagreement. I don't like that. That's never been my MO. And so for me, checking myself before I check others, it's what is kind of helping me. And it's hard, girl. It's hard work. And this weekend actually when this whole went down, I'm also like working on my taxes because we're filming this on literally when taxes are due. And I was like, getting overwhelmed. And then me and my husband are talking about some other stuff, and I just lost it. And then he like comes over and he like, it's everything's fine. And so like to meet someone that could come to you and be like, I can't fully understand what you're dealing with, but let's look out, let's get you back in therapy. And so like that's kind of gonna be my next steps. I'm gonna see again, lucky access to to therapy. Girl, now that she's married, she's got that husband insurance as well. And so making sure that we're okay and
Yeah.
doing that check-in, because I cannot expect my friends or my loved ones to be. It's a lot of emotional labor.
Yeah. 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 I hear you.
How are
And
you doing it? How are you doing it?
thank you so much for sharing that. I'm kind of on the same boat as you, It's a lot and it's really heavy, and a lot of the times it's really hard to continue to push on, whether it's with event production, whether it's
Mm,
community events, whether it's events period, right? Meanwhile, you feel like this looming like feeling of like anxiety, of doom, of dread, of fear, right? It is so hard to continue to like balance all of that because I just can't sit here and be like, no, whatever, that's never going to happen. No, it's a very real reality. It's happening. It's happening right now, right? And don't get me wrong, like, yes, that's there, but at the same time, I don't want that to be the center and focus of my life, you know? Again, and I'm gonna say this till the day that I'm no longer here. We were not put on this earth to be, fearful, to be angry, to be sad, to be hurt. We were put on this earth to live life and to thrive, right? So I'm trying my hardest to kind of stick to that. Also, kind of encompassing everything that is happening also, to ourselves, to our families, to our people. It's really difficult. And, earlier, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but my boo also just came and like he hugs me because he saw me just, I operate a lot in my brain, right, to try and like calm myself down or think of, I'm an overthinker. I think of a million different scenarios, right? But I also try and bring it in as best as I can. But he like saw me in one of these like states and he just hugged me too. And he's like, hey, like I just want to say that I'm really proud of you. I don't know how you do it. I see you working through stuff in your brain, trying to like, I don't know your thoughts, but I see that you are like in a deep thinking mode. But I just want to say, like, I see you, I love you, and I'm here for you, right? And that, similar to what you're saying, like for me, that's been the biggest blessing to have someone to, be able to kind of bounce, whether it's these thoughts, these ideas, or to vent. Sometimes it's just that's all you need. You just need to get these ideas out, right? Because they can't live in your head forever and like just expect you to figure things out on your own. I mean, some people are great at it and some people they have no choice but to do that, right? But it's so helpful even to talk if it's not a significant other, to a sibling, to a family member, to a friend, right? To a therapist, to be able just to get these ideas out. And if you don't have access to any of that, journal. And if you don't have access to any of that, move, right? Like it's just important to like remember that these thoughts are momentarily and they can pass too. This too shall pass, right?
bro.
And I hate to sound super self-helpy, but it's one of these things that's why, we're here to also remind each other, like, yes, we all get these thoughts, and yes, they can be crippling, and yes, they can be fear and anxiety inducing. But I really hope that we all collectively remember that it is just, something that we can experience right now. Pero, like como dice la bichota, mañana será bonito. Let's continue to have these like moments of like, yes, let's feel it, let's grieve it, let's cry it out, right? And then move on to the next thing because the days and life will continue. And that's what we have to hold on to. And, si ustedes no tienen a nadie, just know that you have Julio and myself here with you all.
Yeah. Bitch, I love you.
I love you too, girl.
Jesus and Pablo, I love you guys too. You
Yeah.
you all have, seen the very, very, my lowest time and the fact that y'all still my friends. Like
It was lit, girl. It was a fun time
Pablo is just
most of the time.
on the chat. Me caen bien. But I also, just to wrap up this conversation, I just wanna highlight, I don't know how if you feel the same way, girl, but I feel very blessed to have art as also a way to, therapy. Because once when I get into these moments of darkness, draw it out, girl. Put it in a drawing, put it in a song, put it on writing, and just put it out into the world, right? Like once it's out of me, it's out of me. But even then, right, like that extra help, we cannot do this alone, y'all. Like I cannot stress the fact that nos da vergüenza. Sometimes we're shy to ask for help because we feel like we're admitting failure, or we're admitting that like, oh, like I couldn't do this on my own. Nobody can do this on their own, right? And so we're here, we're queer, we don't drink beer, not no more, at least me.
I love that. I love that. I want that on a shirt.
Oh, girl, this was helpful. This was a helpful hot topic. This is fine, and this will be fine as long as
Yes.
we're with each other.
See.
Well, this felt like a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for indulging me. I was
Oh
like,
no.
let's get personal. Let's vomit our feelings. That
Uh,
sounded kind of strange.
with takis and carrots or what?
Girl, not that story. That's for another
Mm-hmm.
story. La juguera.
Girl, Julio, hey, listen, you brought that up. You brought it up on yourself. If the listeners ask or if the listeners start calling you Julio La Juguera, then we
That's
already know where it
that's what we'll
started,
know.
girl.
Well, if you're listening this far into this podcast, and you can ask me the juguera story, I'll tell you the juguera story. But on that end, to wrap it up, let's end it on a positive note, right? Like, I mean, we kind of wrap it up in a positive. We're looking for ways to deal when things are feeling. But what are some things that are making you happy and bringing you joy? Let's start with you, Sizzle. What's happening?
Yeah. So, I mean, as someone who loves music, any and all music, right? I think for me, it's always going to be super important to also uplift anytime like Indigenous, Latinx, Latina folks come and make waves, right? And for me, as a cumbia lover, right, you can't necessarily talk about cumbia without also bringing in the psychedelic Peruvian chicha cumbia that Los Mirlos has done. And if you didn't know, Los Mirlos is an amazing psychedelic cumbia band from Peru who made history in Coachella. They made history in Coachella, as many of us know. Coachella happened this past weekend. It's just gonna headline their second weekend this week as well. Coachella happens in California, and if you've been living under a rock or maybe you're just not about that life, then you don't know about Coachella. I have, you know, I'm not even going to get into it, but what I'm going to get into is the fact that Los Mirlos made an amazing historic performance at Coachella. They were the first Peruvian band to ever grace Coachella
Wow.
stage, right? And Los Mirlos has been around since 1972, and they've been active since then. So that's 53 years in the music cumbia scene. So these folks have earned the title of iconic, legendary, trailblazing. Anyone who knows of cumbia, specifically Peruvian cumbia, right? Los Mirlos is a staple because we all know they're amazing songs, right? They actually started off in Moyo Bamba, Peruvian Amazonia, right? And then they started making their way out to Lima. And then soon enough, they branched out into all over, right? From, South America, Central America, the US, and beyond. People love Los Mirlos. And I am so, so happy that they were able to showcase this. And, many times, our favorites don't get their flowers until they transition right into the ancestral realm. Pero they have made, big, big headlining news here. At one of the biggest festivals in the world, dare I add, in Coachella, right? Making history as the first Peruvian cumbia band. So shout out to Los Mirlos.
Yes.
We're super proud of you. Y que viva el Perú.
Que viva el Peru. Yes to people getting their flowers, right, when they're still alive. Also, shout out to DJ Ali Rock, one of our Cumbiaton DJs who went to, I was literally following everything that was happening in Coachella through Ali's Instagram. So that looked like fun. But
Aw,
girl, I think I'm past. I don't think I can do Coachella. There was a point in my life that I was like, that would be cute, but girl, not right now. I'll watch it from my TV. I
it's
love
hot
it's
as hell.
it's hot. People are waiting in long lines. No,
Yeah.
ma'am. No, ma'am.
Well,
But
yeah.
for me, oh my God. So I got asked to be part of this exhibit in France, girl. Oui, biche. Next up,
Bonjour. Bonjour,
bonjour.
girl.
Bonjour, girl. So if you're in France in next month, I'm gonna be part of this show from Macla Bordeaux, La Muestra de Art
Wait,
Contemporaine.
wait, 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 wait. Je m'appelle Cecile. Shit, never mind.
Girl, we
What is
can
your
barely speak
name,
English.
girl? I try to flex. I try to flex my
What
college.
what what is the ESL version of the French? I'm sure I'm working with this dude. Shout out to Ivan Torres is a person that I'm working with. He's French Mexican, so I need to ask him if there's like an ESL version of like French, Espanol, or whatever.
Did you
Anyways,
know bolillos are French?
a girl, yeah, the baguettes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's exciting. I can't personally make it to France to the show next month. But if you're there, follow Makla Bordeaux. I'm gonna put their Instagram here. And it's for Mois des Fiertes, aka Mes de Orgullo, aka Pride Month in France. Ew. So that's exciting. And we also wanted to bring in our homie, our producer, to talk about a project that they recently worked on. Jesus, jump on. Ew.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
Jesus.
hello. Hi. Yes, thank you so very much for this quick opportunity to talk about this small documentary that I produced a couple weeks ago here in the Bay Area with Discodelic, which is a small Latino-owned record store. They actually ended up acquiring a collection or the dead stock of Música Latina, which was a staple in the Mission, a music store that operated for 40 plus years. And by coinky dinky, it just so happens that the stars aligned and they received a call from the former owner who was looking to unload all of his records of the dead stock and so forth. And that ended up, you know, us going down a rabbit hole and talking with them and then just uncovering this little, a very charming story of a record store owner that owned three record stores and three music stores around the Mission in San Francisco that all, ended up being like cultural hubs for a lot of different people, particularly the Latino folk, Central American folk. And so, yes, it's on YouTube. I'm gonna drop a link in the info box, so please check it out. I hope that y'all enjoy it. And if y'all are ever in the Mission here in San Francisco, please check out Discodelic.
All
Boop.
right. Look at Jesus being a producer, a documentarian, an editor, a director. Jesus does it all, y'all. And he works with, any and all community members that are seeking to hire, a producer, a documentarian. He takes some amazing pictures. We also have some of his pictures up on our Cumbiaton webpage, right? So please give Jesus and Discodelics a follow. They also do their, live DJ sets in which they feature DJs from all over. So it's pretty cool. It's a cross pollination of just culture, art, and music. So shout out to Jesus for taking on this amazing project. Check it out. It'll be on our YouTube. But we also have, before we quickly wrap it up, right? We also have our Cumbiaton show coming up on May 2nd in San Francisco. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure you purchase your tickets. We're going to be featuring some more Northern California artists that are going to be, that have been carrying the torch within the cumbia scene up in the Bay Area. So we're super excited to see you all May 2nd. Julio, do you want to give us a little wrap up of this segment? Anything that you want to add either to Jesus or to Cumbiaton?
No, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Please don't. I'm just like in awe, y'all. Like, y'all are just doing amazing things. I'm doing amazing things too.
You are.
We're just again, this is the whole point of us doing Sonido Cumbiaton is to, we're gonna bring more guests, is to highlight the brilliance and talent of our immigrant community. So expect more. And with that, please subscribe, give this video a like and share with your friends. Make sure you follow Sonido Cumbiaton on Instagram because we're going to be bringing more stuff to y'all. So thank y'all so much. This was a beautiful, like, fulfilling episode. I feel so happy. Our fourth episode. we're doing this.
That's pretty awesome. And we're getting better and better each time, y'all. So if you haven't done so already, check out the past episodes to see our growth and to see,
Yeah.
how better and more cohesive we're becoming, finding our voices, finding our workflow, right? De Julio, from myself, to Pablo, to Jesus. We cannot thank you enough for tuning in, supporting this project of love on behalf of Sonido Cumbiaton and Cumbiaton. Los Angeles, be on the lookout. We will be back in the month of May. So a lot of things are happening, and I am so happy and grateful to be on this journey with all of you, and also with Julio, Pablo, and Jesus. Once again, please do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Which is Cumbiaton TV, and Sonido Cumbiaton on Instagram, and Cumbiaton_LA as our entity as well. And, continue to support local artists, continue to support, local spaces, community spaces, small businesses. And as always, please continue to support your local immigrant creatives. And as Julio and I usually say, do not text your ex. Okay, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Don't call your ex. Bye.